a great way to start the video. Well, here are all of my beautiful cream highlights and cream bronzers. Try and do this as gently as possible. Let's just get on into this because this is going to be a long video. Oh, but before we do, just a little beer ASMR. So if you guys are excited about today's video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. You guys know I'm a huge cream product fan, so if you are too, definitely make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I have a lot of videos coming. Truly one of my favorite, if not my favorite cream highlight out there. These are the Hollywood Beauty Light Wands from Charlotte Tilbury. These are cream highlights and they come in a variety of shades, but I have two shades. I have the original, which is Spotlight. This is actually a new one that I just opened up a couple of days ago, so it is extra neat, but these do get really messy, just to warn you. It is this just like absolutely stunning champagne shade. It's a very classic shade, but the formula and the finish is what makes this really unique. And I also have the shade Pillow Talk, which is more of a rosy gold shade. I'll put it right next to it. And this is not as high shine as Spotlight, but it's such a beautiful everyday sort of rose gold highlight that looks really good, just barely tapped on the cheekbones. Just what makes them a very beautiful formula to me is that they're very creamy and they give you such a high shine sort of glossy look without looking textured, and they actually appear to be very thin on the skin once you've applied them. They don't look really chunky, they don't look really heavy, and they also actually set down a little bit so they don't remain super creamy on the cheeks, which, you know, some people don't like. Some people don't like feeling like they have a lot of cream highlight on their cheeks. So if you are one of those people and you enjoy that really glossy cream highlight look, I really highly recommend these. My favorite is the Spotlight shade. You can definitely sheer them out to give them just like a very light sort of glossy effect. Very beautiful formula. I know the packaging is a little bit messy, but I do think that it's worth it. It's kind of hard to find such a unique cream highlight formula on the market. Next, we might as well talk about the Hollywood Contour Wand from Charlotte Tilbury. Now, this is a product that I do like. Oh, you can see, again, a little bit messy. This is a product that I do like, but I have to be honest in that I don't use this quite as much as I suspected that I would, and I do think it is because of the shade. The shade looks nice, but you know, it is more of a contour shade. I think I'm just at that point where I'm realizing I'm not really a contour person. I like to add soft dimension with cream blushes. I don't find myself reaching for this a lot, but I do think that the formula is really good, especially if you are a contour person and you're looking for a cream contour that looks like skin. This is definitely one that I would recommend because it does appear like skin when you do use it, and that is due in part to the formula, which, as I mentioned, is very good. I would love to see Charlotte Tilbury come out with some bronzer shades. Now, getting back into highlights, here I have my Rituelle Defee Rare Light Cream Luminizer in the shade Phosphene. I actually got a sample of this before I purchased the full size, and I was so amazed and impressed with the sample that I purchased this full size. And I have to say that this is one of the most exciting new products that I've been trying out. So you can see in the pan that this is actually quite stiff. For a long time, when you don't really get to know cream products, you think that you want something ultra melty, ultra creamy, and you know, sometimes you definitely do. But I think what makes this formula extra unique is that it is more of a stiff and thin formula, because on the skin, it just reflects back light while also appearing so skin-like. That thin texture really meshes well with the skin. It doesn't look like a lot of cream product once it's applied, and this shade is also very flattering, especially if you are more on the fair light side like I am, but they also have some really incredible, very, very unique shades within this line. In the pan, it looks a lot darker, but when you swatch it out, you can see that it actually is quite lighter. I really do think it's one of the best cream highlights out on the market. I also want to congratulate them because they are now being sold at Ulta online, and I do think in select stores. So I think that that's awesome since they are an indie brand. The swatch speaks for itself. Such a beautiful, creamy, high shine finish that still looks like skin. Beautiful, beautiful formula. Now getting into a cream bronzer from Fenty. This is the Cheeks Out in Butta Biscuit. I have also tried Macchiato, but this is a better shade for me because I am more on the fair side. And I have to say that I really, really enjoy this formula. It's very, very creamy and it blends very effortlessly on the skin. You can see that that shade is just very well thought out. You know, Fenty does a really good job creating and formulating shades. As a whole, I think is a big win for Fenty, especially if you want that more creamy, dewy cream bronzer look. Is it my favorite creamy, you know, bronzer out there? No, but I do really like it. I think it's just that I have a couple that I like more. So as a whole, I definitely think that this is a good launch from Fenty, but you will see that there is another Fenty bronzer that I do prefer a little bit more later in the video. You know what? Let's talk about this cream highlight from Flower Beauty. This is the Dago, not Dago, it is the Day Glow Highlighting Glaze from Flower Beauty, and this is a very unique formula that especially I think is unique being that it's a drugstore brand. You know, it's more affordable. This is a cream pan highlight. If you are not afraid of looking like you have a very glossy, super creamy highlight on your skin, then this is definitely a highlight for you. You know, I would think it would be creamier than it actually is, but it's not. It's actually quite thin, but it is more of that kind of creamy, sticky formula. Now, it's not ultra sticky by any means, and I actually do prefer this to other formulas like it. You know, I prefer this to something like the Glossier Halo Scope. This to me feels a little bit more refined. I think the formula feels a little bit more lightweight on the skin, and I think it just looks a little bit more high shine. So I definitely prefer this to a formula like that. I also used to have the Burt's Bees highlight as well. I believe I decluttered it. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. We'll see later in this video. Because that one just didn't give me enough of that glossiness. You know, this brings the glossiness. I would rather, you know, just take a little bit of this and tap it on the cheeks and get that really glossy look rather than taking a lot of that balm and then putting it on the cheeks and it either feels sticky or it just fades throughout the day. Very much a fan of this one from Flower Beauty. And in general, I'm a big fan of Flower Beauty, so I hope you guys are enjoying the video thus far, so make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it so far, and make sure to subscribe as well. Next we have a little bit of a sad story. You can see this is my Danessa Myricks Colourfix Nude, and I had mine in the shade 8. The reason why I say I had it is that you can see that this is just completely dried out. So the only reason I've kept this is that I wanted to include it in a video just as like a warning. The Danessa Myricks formula is absolutely gorgeous. It's very thin, super, super paint-like, but it lasts a really long time. You definitely have to take your time blending it out onto the cheeks, but I do think that it's worth it, especially if you want a long-lasting cream bronzer look. Everything that I've tried out of the Colourfix line I really like, but I will say that if you take off the tiny little spout that comes at the top of this, this will completely dry out. Even if you really seal this back on, air will get in and completely dry this out. Maybe I could take this out and put a little bit of an emollient or some sort of base into it and get it to work again, but I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm probably not going to do that. A little bit of product had dried into that spout and I couldn't get any more product out. Next time go in with a needle and kind of just get that product out rather than doing the dumb thing that I did. Next we have the Colourpop Super Shock Highlights. I have two shades. I have the shade Wisp and then I have the shade Flexitarian. Now first starting off with Wisp. This is more of a golden shade. It's actually a little bit too dark for me. For my taste, it's a little bit too yellow, but that is very, very beautiful for someone that is just a little bit deeper than my skin tone. But I also have Flexitarian, and this is definitely more up my alley, shade-wise at least. But if you couldn't already tell, this is incredibly metallic. Yeah, you can see the Flexitarian definitely brings the pigment and the shine, whereas Wisp is definitely more of that sort of subtle, everyday sort of highlight. Just depends on what you're looking for from a highlight. I really do like Wisp because it looks very skin-like, and it almost is a little bit smoothing on the skin. I do think if you have trouble finding highlights that look smoothing on the skin and you have problems with texture, I definitely think that you would be a fan of Wisp. I actually usually take a little bit of Flexitarian and I put it out onto the back of my hand, and instead of just using it straight out of the pan, I'll tend to take, you know, a lotion or a moisturizer and mix it in. Face oil that I can add to this, but you can see if you mix it into Flexitarian, what it does is it just like shears it out, but it still has that really gorgeous beaming quality, but it's just a little bit more subdued, just a little bit more subtle. Overall, beautiful, affordable highlights from Colourpop. I would love to see them come out with more shades. I actually have already talked about the Illume Sheer Trio from Hourglass on my channel before, and I've talked about how I was actually keeping this not for the highlight, not for the bronzer, but for the blush, because I think the blush is where this palette sings. It's a very beautiful, creamy, perfectly pigmented blush that just blends out like an absolute dream. I actually really like the highlight as well. It's just a little bit too dark for me, so I'm never really reaching for it. As for the bronzer, I could really take it or leave it. I kind of find that it's a little bit choppy sometimes on me. But as a whole, you know, this recently re-released, and a lot of people have been disappointed in Hourglass for not expanding the shade range, and I think that that's, you know, rightfully so. You know, it's 2020. You can't really get away with coming out with a palette product like this that only has one cream bronzer shade. What is someone with deeper skin tone going to use this for? They're not. I'm not saying that all of the products I'm mentioning in this video are completely inclusive, because they're not, but I do think it's important that when a brand has the opportunity to do the right thing and expand the shade range and make it a little bit more inclusive for everyone that wants to love and try out the product, that they do that. And it's really disappointing that Hourglass didn't. I also have some palettes from Salt New York. Let's first start off with my bronzer palette. So I have 4 of the shades. The Salt New York formula, I mean, you can probably see on my hand, this formula is so creamy. There's just no resistance to the product at all. They want to blend into the skin and become one with the skin. They do have more of a dewy finish, but it's not super dewy. I think this is my most used shade. This is the shade Light Medium. Also, look at how cute this palette is. Okay, I digress. The pigment is incredibly even. The shades are so well thought out. There's really a shade for everyone. I love how buildable they are. So if you're someone that's just getting into cream bronzing products, I highly recommend these because they're just so easy to work with. And the same thing goes for their highlights. Now, a lot of these are blushes because you guys know I'm a huge blush fan, but I do have some of the highlights as well, and highlights are really just the same story. Just have that ultra buttery formula that looks really smooth on the skin. It's not gonna highlight a bunch of your texture. Still quite thin, but I like that it has that emollients. I like that it's easy to work with. As a whole, if you're looking for those ultra blendable cream highlight and bronzer products, I would definitely recommend. And also Kiki, the founder, is so hilarious. She's totally an inspiration to me, and I'm really happy that I love her products so much. You know what? I actually want to talk about 3 cream highlights all at once. We can do a little mini comparison all in one sort of thing. So this is Fenty Purrrl. All 3 of these are kind of like clearish balm highlights that just give the skin a little bit of dew and a little bit of shine. None none of these have a real base pigment to them. That makes them really unique in my opinion, and I really do like highlights in this realm. So this is Fenty Purrrl. You'll notice is that Fenty Purrrl is actually the thinnest and the most slippy formula out of all the ones that I have. You can also see it has a touch of a gold shift, but it's mostly just that sort of creamy balm highlight texture. I do really like this one. I think it's really nice if you just want to add that, you know, little touch of dew on top of the cheekbones. Something like this is a really good tool to have in your arsenal. This is the Becca Glow Glaze Stick. This was the original sort of clear balm highlight that I tried out. This is the one that really got me into this kind of product. And you can see there that this one gives just a little bit more shine, and that is one in part due to the texture. This texture is a little bit heavier. I mean, it's not a really heavy product, but it is more balmy. It is slightly more tacky on the skin, but I think it's worth it. You know, if you're gonna go for that look, you might as well use a product that really is going to give you that glossy effect. So out of the two, I think I do prefer the Becca Glow Glaze Stick. But if you do want something more lightweight, you know, maybe consider the Fenty. And then we have what everyone was saying is kind of like a drugstore dupe, which is the Wet Look Stick from Ciate. And I will put that over here. And this one is very similar to both of the other products we've talked about. And this one is actually a little bit more pinky. The other two we were talking about have just a touch of a yellow shift to them. What a good affordable find for someone that wants to get the look, or maybe just play around with this sort of look and not invest, you know, $20 plus into a product. So I think that this is a really good find. I know it's a little bit more difficult to find, but if you are looking to play around with more of a glossy balm highlight, I do definitely recommend this one. But the one that I have really been enjoying since I tried it out is the Danessa Myricks Dew Wet in the clear shade. Now, she does have some with pigment to them, but this, I mean, it looks like a clear pan, but it is just a clear highlight. One, I actually think that this has the best texture. It's actually super satisfying to stick your finger into that pan, but you can see here that it is just clear glaze, but it's not super sticky. It does have a little bit of resistance to it, just a touch of tack, but it's not really sticky. To me, it feels like a more refined version of a face gloss. To me, it kind of feels like something between the Fenty and the Becca. So I really like it for that reason. All right, we have this one from Tower 28, which is the Bronzino. This is in the shade West Coast. And I actually did an entire review on this cream bronzer. This is a really unique formula for a few reasons. One, it has almost kind of like a moussey cream texture to it. I really appreciate the texture because it is creamy, but it doesn't feel too thick or too heavy on the skin. I love that shine that this product has. You can see it definitely has like a golden sort of shift to it. Honestly, I think that this shade is really unique. I haven't found another shade like it. It reminds me quite a bit of the RMS Baruti bronzer, which is a product that is formulated with coconut oil, one, so I don't use it. Two, I'm not a huge fan of RMS in general, but I have to say that this just doesn't blend the way that I would like it to. I just think it's a little finicky on the skin. Sometimes it blends really well, and sometimes it just takes a really long time to get that perfect blend that I'm looking for. I keep it for the shade, but I do wish that the formula was not as finicky to work with. If you guys know of a dupe for this bronzer or for the Baruti bronzer from RMS, if you can recommend a shade to me, leave it down below. I would really appreciate it. We have the Organic Wear bronzer from Physicians Formula, and we have the Organic Wear highlight. So let's get this out of the way. The highlight really sucks. This highlight is really chalky. I feel like you can even tell on camera, which, you know, most camera lights and studio lights make all highlights look good, but even on camera, I feel like you can still tell that this is just chalky looking. It doesn't look very nice on the skin. I feel like this is just a dud product. I really wish that this was more glossy. To me, this is just a bit lackluster, but I do really like this Physicians Formula Organic Wear bronzer. This is the lightest shade, And I think that this is a really, really nice cream bronzer. In specific, I feel like this is a great cream bronzer product for someone that just wants to dip their toes into the cream bronzer world and they don't want to invest too much money in it. I think that this is one of the best cream bronzer products that I've used at the drugstore. Thing that you will notice, I'm not sure if you can see there, is that occasionally you'll see these little balls in the top of the product, and I have gotten some comments about that, about how people don't like that. I can definitely see why you wouldn't, but I've never noticed that that actually affects the formula in and of itself. I just think that, you know, because there are so many oils in here, they just weren't completely emulsified when they finally cooled down the product. I honestly don't really care because I think the formula is really smooth. Some other affordable cream bronzers I would recommend are these from Wet n Wild. So I have two shades. You can see this one is a little bit cracked. This is the shade Call Me Maple. And then I also have the shade Oaks on You. You would think that I would actually like Oaks on You because it's more of my shade, but what I actually like to do is go in with Call Me Maple and go for a very light touch with this because this is definitely way too dark for me. I think the formula is really nice on these, especially if you want to go for more of a creamy but matte bronzed look. These have the creaminess that you want, but they're not gonna look overly dewy on the skin. They're super, super affordable, of course. And actually, I really, really like their highlight as well. This is the shade When the Nude Strikes. Actually, I really like the cream blush as well. Do I have it over here? I know this isn't a cream blush video, but would it be an Amanda video if I didn't somehow incorporate cream blush into it anyway? This is the shade Hustle and Glow. This blush, like, is such an affordable drugstore gem. Absolutely, absolutely love this formula. So unique, blends perfectly, just gives you that beautiful sheen to your skin. And then the Mega Glow highlight and When the Nude Strikes is really, really pretty too. For an affordable highlight to get that sort of glisten that looks really skin-like is hard to find. I did an entire video on the best and worst drugstore highlights, and this is definitely one that I recommended. All of these Mega Glow makeup sticks from Wet n Wild I would definitely recommend. Blend is nice on them. You can tell that it's drugstore. I mean, it's very cheapy sort of packaging, but you know, if the formula is nice, then that's all you need. A bronzing stick I wouldn't recommend though is the LA Girl Velvet Bronzer. Now I've had, you know, mixed results with this. Actually on the hand it looks really beautiful, but for some reason, sometimes I just feel like this color is a little bit wonky. The formula itself is really blurring and quite smoothing, so I think maybe I just need another color. But honestly, I'm not really giving it a good enough go because I think this color is a little bit wonky as a whole. Let me know if you do like this because I've heard really good things about it. I just think that this color is a little bit weird. Another weird, bizarre product is this Ilia Liquid Highlight, the Serum Highlight. I used this in a kind of disappointing products video. This is the shade Nova, and you know, swatched out, that looks pretty. You're like, wow, that's definitely giving me glow. That's really pretty and super shiny, but as you blend it out onto the skin, something weird happens. It kind of disappears and then it like picks up on itself. This did not give me the glow that I was looking for. Way too difficult to work with. I think if maybe the texture was a little bit thicker, I might like it more, but this texture I don't think really knows what it wants to do. I don't think my skin knows what to do with it either. Next we have the Fenty Beauty Matchstick in Mocha. We're talking about a holy grail product for me, and the reason I always rave about this formula from Fenty is that I think people are afraid of it because it's so stiff. This is certainly a stiffer cream product formula, but look at that absolutely perfect, even pigment. That's something that Fenty does so beautifully with this formula. But what makes this so unique in my opinion is that it blends to just look like actual bronzed skin. It gives you such a skin-like finish. It builds incredibly well on itself. It doesn't look patchy. You do have to take some time to warm up the product, but that to me is absolutely worth it just because of the look that it gives your skin. If you're someone that uses a lot of cream products and you just feel like you can see them sitting on the skin, try going with something a little bit thinner. Try going in with a Matchstix formula like this, because I think that this is really one of the best bronzing products I've ever used. I've also had it for so long, and because of the pigment, you know, I still have that much left. You know, that's quite a bit of product left. Another product I just like to look at and just go like, oh my gosh, so shiny. This is a sample from Detox Market of the Rituelle The Alchemist highlight. I can't say that I use this a lot. One, because it's a sample, but two, because just look at this. It's not super wearable, but look at that. Oh my gosh, it is so drool worthy. Absolutely gorgeous. To me, it's definitely more of a sparkly highlight. It's kind of like a base pigment with a bunch of those ultra delicious kind of glitter particles throughout it. This is such a fun product. I especially would love to start incorporating this on my eyelids because, I mean, how can you not? I want to put this on everything. But this product is kind of designed to be a product you would use on the very, very tippy tops of the cheekbones just to add that extra touch of highlight. It's kind of like a highlight for your highlight kind of product. This is the Terracotta highlight from Guerlain. This is the nude shade. And this is a product that I have loved for quite a while on my channel. I don't use it as much now, but I have to say that if you are a fan of a very thin highlight formula that still has that really beautiful glossy finish and doesn't highlight any of your texture, definitely recommend this one. But it's definitely one of those luxe products that looks expensive on the cheekbones. It gives you that glossiness, but it doesn't highlight any texture. Very thin sort of formula. I would definitely recommend this one. I think this is the best sort of stick highlight formula that I've used. Another absolute banger of a bronzer is the Milk Makeup Matte Bronzer. I'm not even gonna stick here for too long, just because I talk about this so much. But guys, this is just one of the best cream bronzer products out on the market. This is the shade Baked, and I just love it. I just love it. It looks so healthy and so dewy on the skin. It wants to blend into the skin. It wants to look really dewy and fresh and bronzed without looking really heavy. Honestly, if you have anything from dry skin to combination skin and you've been looking for a cream bronzer that kind of blends itself, that looks really natural and healthy, look no further. Actually, in one of my videos, I compared these two formulas and I mentioned that, you know, even though this is more expensive, this is cheaper price per ounce because you get an entire ounce of product within the Milk Makeup Matte Bronzer. I also have a mini if you just wanted to try out the mini, which I'm glad they did end up doing that because a lot of people were like, there's no way I'm gonna go through all that bronzer. So it was nice that they also did that. Next, we have the Nudestix Bubbly BB, and this is just a very gorgeous highlight that Nudestix has come out with. I haven't used it in a while, but you can see that it just gives a very gorgeous glow to the skin. It's actually a touch sticky, but I honestly look past it just because of the finish that it gives my skin. I thought that this shade was going to be too dark for me, but it actually is not. It looks really natural and pretty on the skin. Nudestix has definitely gotten some heat recently for not being as inclusive, and I have to agree. I think that they need to kind of go back to the drawing board and rethink how they're formulating products and coming out with products. You know, Nudestix is coming out with nice formulas, and I'm sure that more than just fair-skinned people would want to use them. A liquid highlight from Revlon that I'm a big fan of is this one from Skin Lights. This is actually a recommendation from Daisy Cash, and she says that this is, you know, one of her favorite cream highlights out there, and you know, how can you argue with her? Look at that. Such a gorgeous sheen. And this is also really nice if you've been looking for a drugstore liquid highlight, but you're just finding that a lot of them are more like Glotion products, you know, glow lotion kind of products. This truly is like a cream highlight to me. I love the reflection of it, and I also think it's really nice because it sets down a touch, so I think that's what makes this a little bit more unique than other cream highlights or liquid highlights at the drugstore. Next, we have the e.l.f. Cream Contour Palette. Now, this is a product that a lot of you wanted me to review on my channel. To me, am I reaching for this a lot? Probably not. I do like this lightest shade for me, and I think it blends really nicely, but I don't think that it lasts long enough on my skin. I find that it wears off pretty quickly, and I'm not someone that minds that about most products, but you know, after 3 hours of wear, I'm not really seeing the product anymore, so that is a little bit more disappointing about this. Now, do I think it looks really nice on the skin and blends really evenly? Yes. And we also have the Hollywood Flawless Filter from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the lightest shade. This is the shade Fair. So something I really adore about this product is that it is basically a cream highlight with more pigment to it. And by pigment, I mean it actually has a slight sort of sheer coverage to it. If you are one of those people that really wants the most natural looking highlight that really just looks like radiant, kind of fresh out of the facial skin, this is just one that I will always go back to and recommend. It's thin but creamy, and it works so well with so many different formulas. Just a very beautiful, beautiful product. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, before you go, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and why not subscribe if you enjoyed it. So thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in my next one.